My name's David Brown. I'm CEO of a company called CounterCraft. Our space is cybersecurity. And you asked me the philosophically difficult question about what am I optimistic about and what am I pessimistic about? And I thought, is that going to be a work question or not? So what am I optimistic about? Other than obviously my company, we're going to do really well. But I think humanity in the spirit. I think I am optimistic that we've faced uncertainty and doubt and things in the past, and we will prevail and find a positive way through. I'd like to believe we're going to leave a better world for our kids than we inherited, despite a blip for the current generations. What am I pessimistic about? Actually, I'm a little bit pessimistic that we read the other day that we've moved from being a post-war generation to a pre-war generation. I'm rather hoping that's not going to turn into another one of those global conflicts, but I do think that unless we're very careful, there's something coming along within human sight, within human vision. That's probably my biggest concern.
Future Optimist.
That's a legitimate concern. Thanks for joining me, David. Very heavy stuff to start this. Am I wrong? Did it take you just a split second of hesitation to remember which company you're the CEO of?
A company called CounterCraft. So cybersecurity, nation states.
I'm telling the team. I'm telling the team.
Yeah. Global conflict and war.
I'm just ribbing you. No, broadly speaking, I mean, very big things. Yes, global conflict, and you're at the heart of one of these issues that I think is super important. Why I wanted to talk to you is because we're talking about security. What does that mean? But also cybersecurity. What does security in the digital age mean? And that's obviously something that CounterCraft is at the forefront of. For example, I'm curious what kind of domains you work in or where you see the biggest threats and opportunities also in the business. But, for example, have you ever seen the kind of threat where somebody pretends to be a podcast host, they give you some software, you click a link, there's a video, and you seem to be talking to a human being, it's actually an AI avatar, and your credit card's just being harvested in the background?
You mean other than about 30 seconds ago when this perfectly normal sounding guy slipped into some other Russian accent or something other.
Right.
May have checked you out.
Software that makes it look like I'm looking at the camera, but I'm not.
Actually,
it's just moving my eyes back to you.
So one of my friends who's in cyber the other day posted his AI generated movie of him, saying the world is great and so we're not a million miles away from that. And yes, given the day job, I probably did check you out just a little bit before I agreed to go do this. Honestly, yeah. You know what? That kind of thing is getting misinformation, disinformation. That's getting more and more prevalent. And it's really because the bar to doing that has become lower and lower and lower. So there's the one at the moment. Get your professional LinkedIn mugshot here. I think, yeah, I haven't pressed that button. Your AI generated mugshot? Yeah, no.
Right, and you can have a suit, a power suit, power tie in front of some artificial background. My dad did one of those, and it was perfect, except he had 6 fingers. Aside from that, he looked like a much more Greek mythological hero version of himself. Chiseled chin, and I'm ready for business to conquer the world of business.
I could probably do with the AI filter to make me look, I won't say taller, but make me look younger, more muscular.
More aggressive. Like a propaganda poster of old. But there are so many different things. And there are so many different avenues of phishing and website hacking in all kinds of ways. I feel like every other day there's another data breach, another data leak. I don't know if you get these kind of notifications where you are, but every other day we get an email, we get a letter that's, your data was leaked somewhere. Cool. Awesome. And what can you give me? Here's some free monitoring service to monitor your stuff. Okay, great. So I'm going to be monitored in 10 different places. But you're not going to stop my data. It's already
Have you ever stopped to think that actually that might be the scam?
That's the scam. See, but that's the meta.
That could be the scam.
If so, then my laziness is saving me.
Apathy. No, I don't think we can endorse apathy.
Yes.
It is because that bar. So I mentioned the bar's come down. That means it's easier for many to do bad things. They found there's an economic imperative for doing bad things, and governments have discovered that you can subcontract this out. It's a service. There is a service industry. So
Right.
it's more prevalent
Right.
because it is more prevalent.
Yeah.
And scary words would be arms race, but there's a technological race, and AI is going to make it interesting. That just makes it easier, which means it makes it easier, means it makes it harder to defend, and we'll go through that evolutionary cycle. Do I think we're all going to become prisoners, whatever, in the future, and the machine will press the button? No, I don't think that will happen. Uh,
Like iRobot
no, I don't
style.
think that will happen
That's
in
not happening. Okay.
in lifetimes, as far as anybody could envisage. I don't think that will happen. But yeah, but honestly, it has, and I think it always will do. And that's you got to embrace it, really, haven't you? 'Cause life, otherwise, would
Hmm.
still be carving indelibly into pieces of wood and stone, and carrying your book to school would be a pretty burdensome job because you need knocks and carts. So, of course, we're going to move on. Of course, we're going to move on.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think the biggest threat is, or what do you deal with the most? What types of threats do you mitigate with your company?
Given all I've just said, actually, the biggest threat is do nothing apathy. Honestly, it's
Another
another
win.
breach. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you covered apathy and budget, probably what is classified as being insider, but actually is, well, somebody decided clicked this button and decided that they would join in on some podcast and gave away all their credentials.
Right. Squats,
Yeah,
whatever
or
that
they
is.
clicked on
Yeah.
the link saying, "Oh, I've been breached again. Fill in all my personal information here, including the name of my cat and what's my mother's maiden name and stuff, all of this other
Right.
stuff." So they're giving away their credentials through various phishing things, and so they would appear to be a legitimate employee on whoever's network. That's probably the biggest threat of all, is that phishing thing, because as human beings, we all like to share and give away too much.
Don't we? And that's what social media has proven time and again. And also, we're talking about misinformation. The readiness of people to believe whatever comes across their Facebook feed is truly shocking. We've known that for almost a decade now, since 2016 here in the United States. I don't know what happened there.
I thought
Something
Facebook
happened in
was for old
2016.
people. That's what my kids tell me.
It is, but old people believe everything Facebook tells them. So, for example, the other day, my mom was like, I don't think that Elon Musk shouldn't be allowed to have a CBD gummy line. I thought Elon Musk has a CBD gummy. That seems wildly out of character for the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, and looking at his pedigree and his track record. I was like, that I don't think he has a CBD gummy line. Oh, no, but he does, because there's a newsletter that says so. And that newsletter is based on what? Some Facebook posts. So the news is being generated by essentially a meme on Facebook. So we're super susceptible towards.
So I think the professional hat on, that you have to be careful with a lot of that stuff, because it is being generated by somebody who has an ulterior motive. So whether it's getting you to believe about Elon and this CBD line, whether it's what do you get at the moment? Oh, betting on crypto, or joining in whatever crypto because some personalities appeared on TV saying that the reason you no longer see them on TV is because they're a gazillionaire through clicking on this. Or
Right.
it's
To the moon.
political manipulation. You want somebody to talk about? I believe you've got a minor election coming up. I've got one too
No
in the
big deal.
UK. And so, how much misinformation is being spread by all sides? Because all sides about. Yeah, it's really interesting. Quote, was it 80% of the population within whatever bracket get all of their news through Facebook? I think that quote is directly attributable to Abe Lincoln.
I was going to say Martin
Yeah,
King, but one
of
of
the
the two
two.
for sure.
And it's pretty much true. You can see that as a truism. So, where I might come along, one of our sidelines, we do election protection, right? And so, whilst I might be able to say, yeah, I can tell you if and defend against a nation state attacking your election infrastructure, Actually, it's probably a lot easier to feed your propaganda into social media and change the minds of those selected voters, because there is a science behind all of this. You don't have to fool everybody. You just need to pick target demographics that you go after with the right crafted story to get those swing voters to move to your side. And it's amazing how much science goes into that. Imagine if you spent it on the human good.
Exactly, on doing something positive. But it's clear that there are enormous volumes of people and heavily backed people doing this, or bots, or whatever you want to call it. So if I understood you correctly, maybe I did misunderstand what you just said, but are you suggesting that for some people, rather than preventing that outcome, a more effective strategy is simply applying those techniques on the other side of the debate? Or
Ooh,
did I
no,
completely
I didn't
not hear that
imply
right?
that, but that's not. But
Okay, all right. So that's kind of what I thought.
that's not a bad idea.
Exactly. Don't even try to stop it. Just put your own propaganda out and see if you can counterbalance it
You'd
in that
keep
way.
two teams at least, people incredibly busy, and I think
Yeah.
effectively that's what you have today. So my
Yeah.
mum used to be in newspapers, and I think we'd probably say it's better for all that you went to try and get what is the truth. I think it would be better for all. It may be better for all that you have a parental advisory at the bottom of all of these things, that be aware that this may be completely fictitious.
Yeah. The entire feed might be completely fictitious. And Facebook's gotten bad. I don't know if you've signed in recently. That feed is terrible. I don't know what's happened. I rarely log in, but it's shockingly bad how much stuff and garbage is in quote unquote
Oh,
your
yeah.
feed.
So
So many things you never signed up for, never
whichever
agreed to be a part
algorithm
of.
you're a part of. But I think the next thing is, but the world moves along, doesn't it? My evolutionary thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know whether you're a TikTok fan or I run out of, because I'm not the world's biggest. If you're onto
Yeah.
TikTok or you're onto whatever else that my kids and friends are into, it just moves on to that. It moves on to that. And if you, again, a bit scientifically, somebody somewhere will say, for this particular type of social, these are the demographics of the users, and that's just another way that you can use it. Yeah, you're probably better
Mm.
off subscribing to proper journalism with authenticity. Can't say guaranteed, but at least everything has to be verified and fact checked.
The facade, at least. Yeah. And you have that debate here, of course, about ByteDance needing to divest, or they need to sell TikTok. That's very trendy at the moment. And you have kids who largely love this platform and they don't want to see it. And they think, oh, whatever Google's doing, whatever Facebook's doing, whatever Apple's doing is just as bad. There's really no difference between Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So it's all equally bad. I love TikTok's algorithm for the content. And then you have others who say that it's the most deliberately obtuse code base in the history of the world, and that it's siphoning incredible amounts of data from your phone, whether you realize it or not. And that ticking yes on all of those permissions is basically letting it crawl your entire phone like a spider and harvest every single thing from it. And you can't even detect where that information is going because it is the most masterfully obscured code maybe in the history of humanity. And do kids see that? I'm not
Um,
sure. Does anybody see that?
I think if you subscribe to, so it's not on my phone, but if you
Yeah.
subscribe to that, there's probably that addiction, interest, curiosity, compulsive thing of how quickly can I get through the splash screens and tick until I see whatever clip of something that amuses me. So people don't pay attention to that. They don't pay attention to it. They're straight in. And yes, I think could say fact, verified by others, not found on that.
Mm.
Yeah, you're giving away, in return for that gratification, you're giving away a lot about you. And that could be used for good, because it could be used to personalize services and make sure things around you, or it could be used for ill. I think all you can really do is try and educate. People are going to be responsible and make their own choices. All you can really do is educate.
Yeah. I don't know about other people, but I've taken month-long breaks from the news, not just from these apps, but from the news as well. And your mental health goes up
Yeah.
immediately. If I go a week without looking at the news, without looking at social media, I feel better about myself. I feel better about the state of the
You
world.
read
I
good
go for a bike
old-fashioned
ride. I
books.
enjoy the world. Yeah, just
Yeah.
a book. And then the minute you come back, it's crazy how fast it puts me in a negative state again. In some subtle ways, some very obvious ways. For example, you open Instagram for the first time. Oh, cool. My best friend from the past is now headlining some festival. Gee, I wish I had his life. And I feel worse about my life. Okay, that's one example. Another one. Oh, look at this guy who seems to be made of Teflon because literally no crime he commits will ever land him in any kind of trouble or any kind of accountability. I'm filled with rage at what appears to be a two-tiered and ineffective system. So within minutes of breaking that, I feel bad. I feel envious. I feel jealous. I feel upset. I feel enraged. I feel part of a tribe. I feel part of another. It's very weird how quickly it changes your brain. And if you go even a week without, you go for a bike ride and you're like, oh, that's a beautiful butterfly. That's nice.
Yeah.
That air I'm breathing is pretty pleasant.
It's interesting, isn't it? So I don't do all those social things. So I'm sure somewhere I've got accounts because every now and again for work I'll check in on or something. We met because I do the LinkedIn thing because that's reaching out to my professional audience or people I know. Yeah, the audience is the work, and the people I know, that's the more interesting bits. Facebook, yeah, to be honest, I just use it to keep track of. I've got friends around the world, and it's nice to dip in and dip out. But I consciously don't do all the other social stuff. I do to read. I like to keep on top of what's happening in the world. And so I come back to that good old fashioned newspapers. And some of them have got more journalistic credibility than the others. And some are just like comic books. So you might as well read it, have a laugh, and just say, yeah, move along, because you should appreciate them for what they are. But it's interesting about smelling the roses. So I was sharing before with you where I am today and so yeah, well, I've been doing the work hustle. The nice bit actually was afterwards. The sales guy I'm here with is, let's go for lunch. We're at lunch and I'm the only Western guy in the restaurant today. I can't read the menu. Actually, the menu's what's written on the wall. I said, well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Surprise me. I've eaten things that are still wriggling, and I've eaten out the back of cargo containers on building sites in wherever. Isn't it part of the journey of sit back, smell the coffee, taste the food, talk to people about life and stuff outside of work and get a better understanding for who they are and what makes them tick? You can't do that if you're walking down the street flicking your thumb to make you move from the current whatever it is to the next whatever it is swipe, can you? You miss the whole world around you.
Yeah. And it's really hard to hate people when you meet them, especially when you're in a foreign country. It's shockingly hard. Oh, you disagree? Oh, this is exciting. All right. Reel them in, boys.
People. So I'd say if you instantly hate people because they're different, then there's something interesting about your upbringing and your conditioning, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be, says he is the CEO of a cybersecurity company, shouldn't it be about loving people? Shouldn't it be about being curious? What makes you tick? Why do you like food that's different to me? If you believe in a higher being, okay, so maybe you call yours by a different name to me. Maybe you have more than one. That's interesting. Pluralism. Okay, what's behind that? I like Uber. I'm not ashamed. I like Uber. Why do I like Uber? Because I can use it everywhere. And sometimes I get a really interesting conversation with the guy, and sometimes they don't understand me, and sometimes they don't understand me. I don't understand them, and we're both speaking English. But it's a great way of meeting people and just getting for a glimpse, an understanding of somebody else's life, isn't it?
That's true. I am a Lyft fan for life, and death to all Uber fans. Lyft is my team. Lyft is my
we
tribe.
Will become tribal.
You would be an Uber fan, wouldn't you?
I would, because I don't have to tell.
Well, that was
Yeah,
right.
because we've got a company thing and it just goes, the bill goes somewhere else, which sounds like no
No, it's
responsibility.
fantastic. Yeah, what better way to plug
Yeah.
into the culture? But what the fact that you're in Saudi
Mm.
Arabia now, though, it proves the fact that there's global demand for
Yeah.
what you're doing. Of course, the fact that you travel as much as you do. So, who are the types of companies that engage you? What is the most common form of engagement that you get? I know you've worked with 500
Mhm.
Fortune 500 companies, law enforcement agencies, all types of different entities around the world. What is the most common? Is there a trend?
So, without giving away the secrets, we're probably a high end solution. So, I work with governments and nation states. I work with large financial institutions like the globals. But actually, what's happening is that's coming down. And it's interesting because why is it coming down to a more commodity market? There's nobody more persecuted at the moment than a tier two manufacturing company. And that's probably the ones that we're starting to talk
Mm,
to more because in the past, they didn't invest in all this stuff and the world became a more dangerous place. You're sitting there in the US and your critical national infrastructure and all the debates going on
mm,
about who's on your infrastructure. I could probably tell you we've known about that for 10 or 15 years. It just hasn't been topical at any given point in time. And it's topical now.
mm.
And okay, so that's getting interesting. Remember earlier on, I said the bar has lowered. Yeah,
Right.
it's easier. And in manufacturing and critical infrastructure, you've got organizations that haven't necessarily updated their stuff. I'm fairly sure in your household, you're constantly updating your browser. You're constantly pressing that button and updating the antivirus stuff.
I
Yeah,
am. I'm a
yeah. But
yes.
if you're one of those sort of organizations, you might not. And there are really good reasons why you might
Mm.
not. So actually, do you need to be on the cutting, leading, bleeding edge pre 0 day vulnerabilities to have an impact? Possibly not. So it becomes interesting. And if you're economically viable to go launch an attack to crime for hire, crime for reward, yeah, you're going to be more and more persecuted these days. So, yeah, that's who we're out talking to.
Makes sense. There's an enormous delta, and that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to talk to you and bring you on this show. There's a huge delta between the people who are aware of these things and the people who
Mm.
aren't. Obviously, people in Silicon Valley, also when it comes to AI, the CEO, Sam Altman of OpenAI, he's aware of some things that the average Joe is simply not. There are so many types of things. For example, the average person doesn't know how to code. They don't know anything about any type
Yeah.
of programming language. They don't know the infrastructure on which any website they've ever visited is built. And yet, you have other people who are very savvy in these things who know how to inject malicious code into things that the other person doesn't even know about. So we're in this zone where there's an entire class of risk that people are structurally unaware of. And it's not just an intelligence thing, but it's an extreme expertise
Mm.
thing. Those who know understand, oh, if you accept a USB key from this person, you plug it in, that could already be game over. But who even knows something as basic as that? Or when they go get a router from a certain brand name and they plug it into their internet, that's game over. Or maybe a printer or a fax machine or any number of these devices that could be attached. This arms race, as you said, going on, and it's massive, and AI is making it crazier. And then there's the rest of the population who have no clue about any
Mm.
of that. And I find that to be fascinating.
It is. I'll throw it back at you, but isn't that evolution again? So if you
Sure.
go far enough back,
Okay.
those pesky people who learned how to read versus those who did not, isn't it like that? If you
Hmm.
were sufficiently advantaged, wealthy enough, had people around you who could teach you that skill, it put you ahead of anybody else in your village who could not. Go further back, whoever learnt how to rub some sticks together and create fire probably had an advantage over other people in their community, village, whatever. So I think those who can code versus those who can't, those who use AI versus that's like evolution. I think there's always always going to be a bit of that. My point is, that's always going to be pointy edge. So how fast will that unique knowledge become commonly accepted? That's the norm. And I don't know, the number of generations it takes from that pointy edged advantage to it being the norm, probably the number of generations, because it's a generational thing, that's probably reduced in generations, isn't that? Hundreds of years before you came from a written word. How many years from the invent of AI to your mum using AI to do something around the house or some chore that makes life easier for her?
That's a great point. That's a great point. And you yourself, at some point, you recognized that cybersecurity was an area that you wanted to go into. So what was it about your journey that made you realize, okay, this is a field for me, or I'm going to use my knowledge of this to be at the forefront of a company in this sector? And of course, the advantage there is to be able to make money from this issue.
Make money, I guess that's always been a one. Curiosity. I've always been a curious person. What makes that work? Wonder. And the odd, I appear to have broken that. Hope nobody noticed. And going through the curiosity thing of how does that work? What does it do? And my journey, long, complicated route. So definitely no strict career planning along there. So it was, that looks interesting. Let's go have a look. So I'd always say when you're young and it's like, I'm going to be this. That's great. That's a great opinion. That's a good direction. See how it works out. And if somebody offers you an opportunity, say yes. Have a look. I ended up building control systems working for teams that did that, for control systems that ran things like oil refineries and cement plants and stuff like that. And then I did other stuff, and I was like, here's an opportunity to put cybersecurity around stuff like that. Why would you want to do that? Yeah, I could see what would happen. Lots of fast forwarding. My team helped secure nation state grids. We did the bit around helping London with the Olympic Games. We were all pretty paranoid about making sure that when my Queen and James Bond jumped out that helicopter, because they did that for real, obviously, the lights didn't go out and there wasn't the sound of machine gun firing and people would have got hurt. And as a nation, we would have been severely embarrassed. And none of those things happened. So phew, we obviously did an okay job, or a much better than okay job. And we were just a small part of this really big team. And getting into that, I thought, actually, this is cool because there's a number of things that come into play. So the geeky technological bit, that's quite cool. That's good fun. Yeah, you can make some money out of it. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Provide for your family. You're brought up to do all of those things as well, depending on your value system. But I was brought up to do that. And then you also get into this place where actually it's red versus blue team, really. It's the good guys with the white hats versus the bad guys with the black hats. And actually that's a theme that's coming back around today. Whatever the color of your tribe is versus the other, you form some fondness around one of the colored types of teams, whatever. And that helps to give you a bit of purpose to what it is that you're doing as well. So, long-winded way, but I suppose those are the things that motivated me. I thought, this is interesting. This is cool. I enjoyed the purpose. You get into the tribalism, if you want to call it tribalism, my belief system versus somebody else's belief system, and supporting your family or families.
Yeah, you brought up the distinction between white hat and black hat. Obviously, these are terms in the hacker community, have been for many, many years. How do you feel being a part of the quote-unquote white hat community? Do you get a sense of being on the front lines, or is it too abstract?
You get a sense of it, yeah. It's interesting because you get to see what people are throwing at organizations, causes, communities, whatever, nation state. Yeah, you get a sense of that. And I think it helps shape who you are and that your company, what they represent, and how you go out into the market. It's not just about here's some cool stuff, buy it, and in a number of years we'll do an IPO and we'll all be gazillionaires on big yachts and whatever. Although that would be really nice. I won't. I ought to say,
Sounds like fun.
I thoroughly endorse that. But there's a but. Why are you doing it? There's a but why you're doing it, and ultimately, I think the why are you doing it? All those things are nice. They'll follow. They'll come after. What's your purpose? What do you want? What do you really want to do? Do you want to make the world as safe and comfortable a place as you can for those that you care about? Because either they're your family, your friends, or your tribe. And your tribe is many nations, but they are the white hat, and the others are the black hat. And that's, we have a conference screen, a black hat, but it's the most simplistic caricature of it, isn't it? In the Western days, we all had white hats and black hats. Good guys wore white hats, bad guys wore black hats.
Yeah, it's always that trade-off for every individual person, such as, for example, if I submit a 0-day bug to Apple or Google, if I let them know about a security vulnerability, I might make $100,000. But if I exploit that bug, I could make millions. And there's always that tension between what is the easiest path for an individual riches, right? And where do you draw the line? Are you comfortable with only getting $100,000 to do the right thing when you might make $2 million doing the wrong thing?
What's your price?
And what's your moral price? What's your ethical price?
What's your price for doing that? Me, it sounds like a Boy Scout. Yeah, 100 grand, that's great, because I'm getting rewarded for my endeavors. Brilliant. Yeah. Morally, philosophically, I can say I did the right thing. Yeah, profit out of it. That's not bad. Yeah, I really endorse that. Making profit out of doing the right thing is definitely good, and I'll sleep well at night, and I don't have a problem with that. If I could make 2 million, next thing is 2 million enough? Probably not. So now you're going down another spiral. Your philosophy in life would probably say 2 million is not enough. Now I need more. The 2 million I made, does that covering my back and doing all the things I might need to do now? Yeah, it might seem a lot of money at the time. Probably not. But no, I would endorse do the right thing, because you can definitely sleep. You can definitely look at yourself in the mirror. And I think the 2 million thing is, well, now you put a price on you, haven't you? If you talked about having a soul, but a belief system, you put a price on your belief system now, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I have $2 million on a Bitcoin vault that I can no longer access.
Is that one of the random emails I sent you? If you just tell me the name of your grandmother's
I have
cat.
5 password attempts left, and then it's gone
Ross,
forever.
Just tell me the name of your grandmother's cat. Where you?
Yes, I was going to say I have one final interview question for you. Could you just let the viewers know what your social security number is? It's a standard question.
The standard follow-up
we ask
interview
it to all of the guests.
Is what's your social security number?
Yes, we like to that. We've already got your facial scan.
That's right.
We got your retina
the
scan.
younger, fitter, healthier,
So
more
we now have
muscular version of
Face
me will
ID.
be appearing on LinkedIn very shortly.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to the Pierce Brosnanification of your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
That's the real takeaway from all of this. So as we wind down, since I know you've got quite a night ahead of you of travel, what is the one thing that a business owner or an individual can do? What is something they can do to be more secure or to mitigate some of the risk in their personal or professional life?
Ooh, personal, professional life. Personal life, obviously, buy more CounterCraft. That will protect you. But boom. I think you need to be proactive. I think if you think that it is actually worse than you envisaged, that's not a bad place to be. Because I think, we're now entering a phase in the world where there are so many bad things that could happen to you that you should constantly be preparing for the worst thing to happen. What things do we have to counter what hasn't happened here yet? Hasn't happened here yet. We had a conversation over dinner with some friends a few weeks back, and we talked about one CEO that was looking down a 50 million euros day cost to his business per day. And they had to think 2 extra days because are you sure that the bad people have left? You're wiping your face. It's a lot of money. We all think about that's a lot of money, and that's something that some businesses just can't get away from. So, what would it cost you to defer the risk to a level where you're happy? I think it is escalating. It's not going to get better. The pessimist, because you talk about the optimist, the pessimist side. Yeah, the pessimist, you should actually prepare for that. You should do those things. The optimist bit, actually, there are things in places. There are things that you can do. It's not all bad. This is just part of evolution. It's part of what will happen. It just is. Embrace it. Embrace change.
We've certainly come a long way from the Amazon.com days where people were hesitant to enter their credit card number at all on any website. They had to convince you that was okay. Now it's ubiquitous, and now maybe we're a little too comfortable sharing our stuff. We've gone from being completely skeptical to just accepting everything blind.
So my mother
maybe
is
that's
like that. She's lovely, but she doesn't want Amazon. She doesn't want to give hers to anybody. And you know what?
That's a dying breed.
It's not bad. Apple Pay, PayPal, other things you can use other than giving somebody your credit card number directly. It's not that hard. That's the bit. It is overcoming that level of apathy. It's not that hard to just up a bit more.
No, you're right. And I don't know how it is in your part of the world, but in the United States, it's always struck me. When we have a password, even for our phone, it's understood that if I have a 9-digit password of only numbers for my computer, that is a very weak and stupid and bad and easily cracked password. We understand that. And now websites say you need to have 9 to 16 characters, you need a symbol, you need uppercase, lowercase, don't do dictionary, et cetera, et cetera. We get that. And yet so much in the United States of our life is determined by a 9-digit number called your social security number. How stupid is that 9 numbers in a sequence could have any meaning for me as a human being, such that if somebody grabbed it, it could cause me problems? What the
I know.
is that? Well, can we not go beyond this?
The 9-digit number thing. So I think yours is just a series of numbers.
It's just numbers.
Mine's got letters.
That's all it is.
Mine's got letters in it. That makes mine
okay.
more secure.
No, we got 9 numbers.
Yeah, makes mine more secure.
And if you have it, apparently it causes me a problem.
Yeah, but if you give me $9.99 a month, I can make sure that nobody else has it.
It's the least I can do. I'll use your credit card to fill it out.
You're right. There's one of the keys to your identity. More than that's a constant thread. If somebody gets that does cause you problems. The other constant thread that you can do something about is how many people use the same password for anything. You know, again, I'm sure it's Mr. Lincoln's famous quote about 80% of the population has one password for everything. We'll blame him. But
he was way ahead of his time.
How many people do that? Because instead of using functionality in your browser or functionality in whatever to assign more random, or pick what's your favorite pop group, what's your favorite song, random letters from first verse of favorite song and first line of chorus of favorite song. And you can still have things that you could remember. You might start humming tunes in very bizarre places as you're trying to remember what they would be, but there's lots of ways you could protect yourself.
It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for going philosophical with me, David. It's been very exciting. And of course, I want to give you a plug for your professional services. We've talked about CounterCraft being the company. And of course, that website is CounterCraft SEC, like the first 3 letters of security.com,
CounterCraftSec.com. Yeah.
So check it out. And you are in a world, whether the casual listener realizes it or not, that is going to become increasingly more important in the next 5-10 years. So hopefully you'll always have a job.
My mother would be pleased. Yeah, hopefully I'll always have a job. But again, let's end this on the positive, right? It presents gainful employment. It's that evolutionary thing. What happened after people learned how to read? They got themselves better jobs. They learned how to read. They learned how to write. They learned how to fill those things in. You talked about the people who used AI. They got themselves better jobs. They protected their community. They had the ability to improve their income and the circumstances of those around them. It's not bad, is it?